Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So as a person who watches TikTok videos so that you don't have to, so China just made this game-changing move, one that could shake the very foundation of American agriculture. So China is backing away from US exports, choosing instead to be doing business with Australia and Brazil. For years, American farmers, particularly in deep red states like Nebraska and Indiana, have relied heavily on export demand from China. But China doesn't want their beef anymore, as in beef, the real meat. Whether it's just beef or more, I'm not sure. US agriculture products are on a chopping board right now. What is clear on this is that billions of dollars are at stake. So China is turning to Australia for beef, whose officials were quick to welcome the deal. In fact, they even pointed out that their dollar is weaker than the US dollars, making trade with them cheaper and more attractive. Also stepping in to meet China's growing demand. And let's talk politics. Many farmers in these affected areas once supported Trump. That is, if they are, still supporting Trump. They are not happy with this news. So this is becoming another fuffle for these farmers, because this is hitting the red states mostly. So what does this mean for American agriculture, for the US economy? So we're gonna come back and continue this conversation. But first, take a look at these TikTok clips that I collected for you. Let's watch this together.
When China said they don't give a fuck, they meant it. If you haven't heard, China has ended its beef exports from the US. Losing those exports is worth $1.6 billion to the US. And you want to guess which state exports the most? Nebraska. And they have a $400 million budget short, which means the Nebraskan ranchers are not going to be able to get a subsidy from the state because they're already $400 million short. China took that beef exports right over to Australia. And China didn't stop there. They are also reducing their soybean exports by 9.5%, or almost $5 billion. And Indiana is going to feel that pain, seeing that they export $2.6 billion, or 60% of their soybean crops, to China. And China is going to subsidize that through Brazil. So that means we are losing again. Have you noticed that they are targeting red states? That seems pretty strategic if you ask me, targeting red states.
It's about to get interesting. China just attacked back and things are looking interesting, to say the least. So what just happened is that over the weekend, Donald Trump came out and said, hey, we are going to reduce the taxes on China. Over the weekend, while Donald Trump was out playing golf, China said, I do not care. And what they did is they replaced the US in specifically two areas, beef and soybeans. Now, why is this interesting? Because this specifically attacks southern states, aka states that put Donald Trump into office. Beef comes directly from Nebraska, and they have roughly a $400 million deficit, meaning nobody is buying that beef anymore from Nebraska. Two, soybeans. Soybeans come from Indiana. Specifically, Indiana sells roughly 60% of their soybeans to China. Over the weekend, China came out and said, we don't need that anymore. China decided that they will officially start importing soybeans from Brazil and beef from Australia. Now, with that said, this is about to be interesting times because Trump is going to say this was all a part of the plan. However, China does not agree. So tune in for the next episode of Real Housewives of America. Peace.
American manufacturing will never come back to America, okay? This is the most ridiculous thought process, okay? Regardless of what the media tells you, what the White House tells you, it will never happen. It is impossible, and I'll explain why. The reason why everything is made in China is because the labor's cheap, because the labor laws over there are a lot different than in the United States, okay? They don't have ambulance chasing attorneys that run around and try to sue companies or try to cause issues like America does. It is very much a very pro-business, pro-manufacturing, pro-trade nation. Hypothetically, if they successfully brought all manufacturing back to the United States, you, the American consumer, would be fucked and you wouldn't be able to afford shit, okay? The only reason why you're able to go buy your little blow dryer and blow your hair and dry it off and it only costs you 20 or 30 bucks is because it was made in China and labor is so cheap and laws favor manufacturing and business so much that you're able to buy it for that price. Now, if the same item was manufactured here in America, it would cost you $80 or $120. So if you want manufacturing to come back to America, just understand that if you think you're poor right now, okay? You will be renting a blow dryer to dry your hair. You won't even have one in your house anymore. Additionally, China doesn't need the United States. China has the rest of the fucking world to do business with, okay? And in these types of fucking trade wars where there's tariffs, bro, there's ways around it, okay? If you're clever, I'm sure there's ways that companies will start having their products shipped to other nations that aren't America, and then from those nations shipping them to the United States and bypassing tariffs, okay? And this is coming from somebody who voted for Donald Trump, by the way. Okay, I voted for the dude. Okay, not necessarily because I think he's the best pick, but because I wasn't going to vote for the left-wing insanity that was going on, because I felt like the left wing was no longer about economics and about what was good for America, and they were too much involved in social bullshit. And I don't want anybody in the White House that's chasing social issues. I want somebody in the White House that's chasing economic issues. So yeah, if you're one of these Americans who's drinking the Kool-Aid and you think that manufacturing is going to come back to America and we're just going to roar, it's not, okay? American employees are lazy, all right? This is coming from someone who's employed them. They're entitled. They don't work hard, okay? American culture breeds people who do not want to work and are not disciplined. I'm sorry. And if you don't believe me, go over to fucking China, go into a factory, go into a work environment, and look at how Chinese people work, okay? They work to death. They work on a different level, okay? They don't cry, they don't bitch, they don't whine. They don't go, oh, you didn't give me my break time. It's not the Chinese mentality, okay? I've done business with Chinese people. They are extremely disciplined people, bro. They are overachievers, all right? If you're a little Asian kid growing up in an Asian household, even in America, and you ain't getting straight A's, your parents won't even have a conversation with you, okay? They won't talk to you. They demand excellence. It is a different mentality than the United States. The United States honestly demands hot dogs and cheeseburgers for their kids, okay?
Tensions between China and U.S. are heating up. I'm talking about this is real beef. So China has just made a decision. China has suspended exports of a wide range of critical minerals and magnets, threatening to choke off supplies of components central to automakers, aerospace manufacturers, semiconductor companies, and military contractors around the world. So basically, China leads the world in refineries and mixing and whipping natural materials, the iron ores, the lithiums, the steel, all of that type of stuff. America is not built currently to refine ore and minerals. So China has taken another step towards dominating. This is crazy.
Okay, and there you have it. China has officially withdrawn its beef imports from the United States and scaled back soybean imports, making yet another dramatic shift in this ongoing trade war. The ripple effects are already being felt, and unfortunately, American farmers, especially in red states like Nabraska and Indiana, are taking the biggest hit. Let's break down for a second. Nebraska, heavily reliant on agricultural exports and proudly red, is staring down the barrel of a major FAFO moment. We are talking about a loss of billions of dollars just from the beef side alone. That's not a minor hiccup. That's families, communities, and the local community. And it doesn't stop there. Indiana, another solidly Republican state, is facing its own version of FAFO. Soybeans are one of the state's biggest agricultural exports. Now that China has deliberately chosen to cut back its export from Indiana, we are looking at billions in potential losses. What's common denominator here? Red states. It's clear that China isn't just making random trade decisions. This is more calculated, strategic, and honestly, a bit ruthless. Okay, instead of continuing to rely on the US, China has pivoted to importing beef from Australia and sourcing soybeans from Brazil and other markets. They're not playing around. They've basically looked America straight in the eye, like we saw it on the TV. Like they said it, like, we don't need you now. We don't need you. Not now, not for the next 5,000 years, they said. That's not just an economic decision. That's a geopolitical statement. This isn't about trade policies. This is about power, leverage, and global positioning. China is making it known that they are willing and able to thrive even without the American goods. And with these calculated moves, it's becoming harder to argue that the US is winning the trade war. If anything, it's beginning to feel like US is bleeding out slowly, especially in the agricultural heartlands. The irony, the very states most affected by these retaliatory measures are the same ones that stood by by T, during his tariff war with China. The idea was that these tariffs would bring China to its knees. That was the idea. And somehow rejuvenate American industry and agriculture. But that vision seems increasingly out of touch with reality. Let's also not forget, despite all this going on, Trump hasn't even imposed any new tariffs yet on China, apart from the last one that we know. He's holding back for, I don't know, for how long? Maybe he's going to reduce these tariffs on China. It is strategic patience, or is he running out of cards to play? Meanwhile, China is making quite but decisive moves, strengthening ties with other trade partners, reinforcing domestic production, and diversifying its supply chain. Yeah, this is what China is doing right now. And let's not sugarcoat it. This isn't just about an economic issue. I think it's becoming personal. That's what I think anyway. What we're seeing now is the real cost of these trade decisions, something that can't be spun away with campaign slogans or, we're witnessing the fallout. This is more like we are witnessing the fallout in real time. And it's not even funny because a lot of people are affected by this because of what other people, the wrong decisions other people made. You know what I mean by that. Only time will tell and how this will play out, Will the US dig in and escalate the conflict, or will they see a shift toward diplomacy and cooperate before more damage is done? Yeah, but one thing for certain is that the current path is unstable, and the longer this continues, the more irreversible the consequences may become. Yeah. Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below on this topic, because I really want to hear what you think about this conversation. This is a conversation worth having, especially that it's impacting so many people in such a direct way. If you're from Nebraska, Indiana, or any other farming state, I would love to hear your first-hand perspective. Maybe it's just the news. Maybe we're hearing the wrong things on the news. You are the right people in the right position to tell us exactly what is happening in those, farming states. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on that notification bell if you haven't already. And I'll definitely see you in my next video. Please stay peaceful.